I've been hearing a lot about Bitcoin lately, but I'm still not entirely clear on how it works. Can you explain it to me?
Sure, at its core, Bitcoin is a digital currency. It's decentralized, meaning it doesn't rely on a central bank or a single administrator. Instead, transactions are verified by a network of computers known as miners and recorded on something called the blockchain.
Blockchain? I've heard that word too, but what exactly is it?
Think of the blockchain as a digital ledger. Every time someone sends or receives Bitcoin, the transaction gets recorded in a block, which is then added to a chain of previous transactions. What makes this special is that once something is added to the blockchain, it's nearly impossible to change. It ensures transparency and security because every computer in the network has a copy of the entire chain.
So, if there's no central authority, who keeps track of everything? Who ensures the system runs smoothly?
That's where the miners come in. These are individuals or companies who use their computer power to solve complex mathematical problems. When they solve one, they're allowed to add a new block of transactions to the blockchain, and as a reward, they receive a certain amount of Bitcoin. This process is known as mining.
Mining sounds a bit like digging for gold, except in the digital world.
Exactly. In fact, that's a common comparison. Mining Bitcoin requires significant computational effort, which is why people compare it to physical mining. It also has a limit. There will only ever be 21 million Bitcoin, which is another reason it's often compared to gold.
That's interesting. But why is Bitcoin so valuable? I mean, it's just digital, right? It doesn't exist physically like traditional currencies.
That's a great question. Bitcoin's value comes from several factors. One is its scarcity, as I mentioned. There's a limit to how many can ever exist. Another reason is the trust people place in it as a store of value. Unlike fiat currencies, which can be printed in unlimited quantities by governments, Bitcoin has a fixed supply, so many see it as a hedge against inflation.
I see. So, do people actually use Bitcoin for transactions? Or is it just an investment asset at this point?
Both. Bitcoin was originally created to be a digital currency that people could use for daily transactions. Some businesses do accept Bitcoin as payment, and there are even Bitcoin ATMs in some places. However, because its price can fluctuate wildly, many people now treat it more as a form of digital gold, something to invest in and hold for the long term.
That's what I've heard as well, that its price can be really volatile. Why does that happen?
Bitcoin's price volatility comes from several factors. For one, it's still a relatively new technology, and people are still trying to figure out what it's really worth. Any news or speculation about regulation, security breaches, or technological improvements can cause big price swings. Additionally, because the supply is limited, even small changes in demand can lead to significant price changes.
So, would you say Bitcoin is a good investment?
That's a tricky question. Some people have made a lot of money by investing early, but others have lost just as much due to its volatility. It really depends on your risk tolerance and investment goals. If you believe in the long-term potential of decentralized currencies and blockchain technology, it might be worth considering. But it's definitely not without risk.
What about security? I've read stories about people losing access to their Bitcoin because they forgot their passwords or got hacked.
Yes, security is a huge concern with Bitcoin. Because it's decentralized, there's no bank to help you recover your funds if you lose your private keys. Those are the codes that give you access to your Bitcoin. If you lose them, your Bitcoin is essentially gone forever. Hacking is another issue, but that usually happens when people store their Bitcoin on online exchanges. The best practice is to use something called a hardware wallet, which keeps your private keys offline and safe from hackers.
That sounds like a lot of responsibility. Are there other risks I should know about?
Apart from the risks of losing access or being hacked, there's also the regulatory risk. Bitcoin operates outside of traditional financial systems, and governments around the world are still figuring out how to regulate it. Some countries have embraced it, while others have banned it or imposed strict regulations. Depending on where you live, That could affect how easily you can buy, sell, or use Bitcoin.
What about its environmental impact? I've heard that mining Bitcoin consumes a lot of energy.
That's true. Mining requires a massive amount of computational power, which uses a lot of electricity. Some estimates suggest that Bitcoin mining consumes as much energy as some small countries. This has led to a lot of debate about Bitcoin's environmental impact, with some arguing that it's unsustainable in the long run. However, others point out that much of the energy used comes from renewable sources, and there are ongoing efforts to make the process more efficient.
I didn't realize it was such a complicated issue. It seems like Bitcoin is more than just a currency or an investment.
Definitely. Bitcoin touches on so many different areas: technology, economics, finance, even environmental science. It's fascinating, but it's also why opinions on it can be so divided. Some people see it as the future of money, while others view it as a speculative bubble. Either way, it's worth paying attention to, even if you're not directly involved.
You've given me a lot to think about. If someone wanted to get started with Bitcoin, where would they begin?
The first step would be to do as much research as possible. There are tons of resources out there: blogs, videos, forums. Once you feel comfortable, you'd need to set up a digital wallet, which is where you store your Bitcoin. Then you can buy Bitcoin through an exchange or from other individuals. But like I said before, be careful with security and only invest what you're willing to lose.
It sounds like there's a lot to learn, but it's definitely intriguing. I might just have to dive deeper into this.
It's a fascinating world for sure. Just take your time and make sure you fully understand the risks and rewards before jumping in.